Cunningham, and Thompson this time with a defensive play. Now finds Jalen Green. Oh my goodness! He did it!
The modern NBA may have killed rivalries when star players became all chummy with each other and joined forces on the same team. Luckily, we have two young players who seem to have beef with each other when they're out on the court. We're talking about Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green, two budding stars who just want to beat each other badly and are not afraid of going at each other. Of course, you know that rivalries have always been a part of the NBA. From the gigantic Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell going at it in the 60s, to the rise of the matchups between Magic Johnson's Lakers and Larry Bird's Celtics in the 80s, there has always been a rivalry that made the league more interesting. The problem is that while we did see LeBron James and Stephen Curry in a rivalry around a decade ago, rivalries today aren't as heated as they used to be. That's because today's stars are friends with each other. Back in the day, star players wanted to compete with one another and refused to be too friendly off the court. On the court, however, they were anything but friendly because old-school players loved going at their rivals and proving why they were better. In fact, a lot of older players have been wondering why today's stars want to play with each other on the same team instead of competing on different teams. Can you imagine what would have happened if Magic, Bird, and Jordan played on the same team decades ago? Well, they all shot down the idea because they never wanted to be teammates, preferring to beat each other instead of being too chummy.
Steal, he kept it in bounds. Here it is again. Oh!
You can blame social media, super teams, and a lot of different factors for this lack of rivalry in the modern NBA. But some people have noticed that two young players have actually embraced that old school mentality and seem to have beef with each other. First, we have Cade Cunningham. The 6'6" point guard is a bona fide star and a legitimate stud on the court. He was the #1 overall pick in the 2021 draft and has been the franchise star of a rebuilding Detroit Pistons team. He's a true point guard capable of making plays for others, but still potent enough on the offensive end to score the ball himself. Then we have Jalen Green, the Houston Rockets' best perimeter scoring option. People love Green for his insane hops and Showtime-level dunks. His elite athleticism and scoring mentality have allowed him to become one of the best rising stars at the shooting guard spot. But while most young players today hang out off the court and are good friends, the developing story is that Cunningham and Green don't like each other when they're on the court. They put their A game on when their teams are matched up, and they're not shy about showing off how serious they are and wanting to beat each other. So, what led to this modern-day rivalry? It all goes back to their high school and AAU days. While they were working their way up through the recruitment rankings in high school, both Cunningham and Green were the talk of the town at the guard spot. Green had an early head start because he was already showing off his elite hops and scoring instincts early in his high school career. Meanwhile, Cunningham slowly rose through the ranks, especially after making the full transition to point guard and transferring to the elite Monteverdi Academy program. But during that time, scouts and analysts couldn't help but compare these players to one another, especially because they were the two best guards in the same recruitment class. People were pitting them against each other in the AAU circuit. While they never played against each other in high school basketball, they were neck and neck in the recruitment rankings. Cunningham came out as the majority top overall recruit as chosen by Rivals and 24/7 Sports. But ESPN ranked Jalen Green as the top recruit.
Matt Morgan lost it. The steal for Jalen Green against Peyton.
Coming out of high school, they were #1 and 2 respectively, and this was one of the background stories surrounding their rivalry. Cade went to Oklahoma State University, where he turned into a breakout star as a freshman. Meanwhile, Green took another path to the NBA by going to the G League to play for Ignite, skipping the college process entirely. The two players never met in the 1 year leading up to the 2021 NBA draft, as NBA scouts were keeping their eyes glued on the two best players of that class. In the end, almost every scout believed Cunningham's size and upside gave him the edge over Green in the draft rankings. He was the consensus #1 overall pick. True enough, the Pistons chose him as the top pick in 2021. Meanwhile, Jalen Green was not so bad himself, getting picked second by the Houston Rockets. But for a lot of players, being second is worse than being third, fourth, fifth, or any lower ranking. It simply means you're not the best because there's someone else people think is better than you. So for Jalen Green, because Cade Cunningham may have made him feel he wasn't the best. Green had a chip on his shoulder from day one, and it was one of the things that fueled him in his on-court rivalry with Cunningham. For the first few years since 2021, the rivalry was hush. After all, both players were young and trying to make a name for themselves. Going at one another was the last thing they had in mind when they were struggling to find their place in the league while leading rebuilding teams. But the rivalry was rekindled in 2023 when they were both selected to be part of the Team USA Select team. During practice, Cunningham went in for a dunk. As he approached the sidelines, he saw Jalen Green and tapped him on the chin, leaving the Houston Rockets guard wondering why Cade did that. It's become a bit more personal after that moment, especially with these players now playing for surging and rising franchises.
Just under a minute and a half to play in the half. Cade Cunningham sees some daylight, scoops and scores!
Cunningham has become a legitimate star point guard in the league, giving new life to a Pistons squad that hasn't had much success since the middle of the 2000s. Meanwhile, Green is one of the top options on a balanced and gritty Houston Rockets squad that could make some noise for years to come. The rivalry reached the media's attention when, in their matchup early in November 2024, Jalen Green gave no quarters to Cade Cunningham when he dunked on his head in a fast break play. After that, Green screamed at Cunningham's face, showing a ton of emotion. Cunningham didn't do anything except finishing the game with 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists. Green had 15 points, but exited with the win. Since then, people have been keeping a close eye on these two players. They met again in January 2025. This time, Cunningham got the better of Green by posting 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists in a win.
Simone Fontecchio will rest Tim Hardaway Jr. for the Pistons. Cade dribbles through traffic, gets to the basket!
Green, on the other hand, had 19 points. And when Cunningham appeared on Inside the NBA not too long after, he got asked about his rivalry with Green. He acknowledges that they will forever be tied together because of their AAU history and the fact that they were both number 1 and number 2 coming out of high school in 2020 and entering the NBA in 2021. But Cunningham also acknowledged that everything about it boils down to competition. They don't necessarily hate each other or want to see each other fail. In fact, Cunningham showed some love to Green not too long ago, giving him support. But he also knows that when they're on the court, they are rivals. They want to go at each other and compete at the highest level possible. That's why they try to bring out the best in their games when their teams are matched up. And this is actually good for both of these young players because competition always brings out the best in people. Basically, they know they need to compete with one another to up their game and get better. Cunningham has the edge over Green in terms of individual stats and accomplishments because he's now a legit all-star.
Cunningham. Look at the handles. Cade!
Green isn't there yet, but he's on a better team that has a better chance of succeeding soon. And when they're competing against each other hard, they're only going to get better. This is good news for the NBA because the league has had a shortage of rivalries. That may be one of the reasons why the NBA's viewership has been going down recently. People want to watch a league where players want to compete at the highest level against their rivals. So if that's the case, this budding rivalry between Cunningham and Green could actually help the NBA in the long run. At this point, it's not real beef that extends outside the court. They respect each other and are civil off the court. But when they're on the hardwood floor, it's a different story. Just like how Magic and Larry were best friends off the court, but bitter rivals when the game was on the line. Of course, Cunningham and Green aren't at that level yet, but there's a good chance their rivalry will reach new heights in the future, especially if their teams cross paths in the playoffs in the future.